NERDSoul.
Why are you a black man in love? All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Black Together, a Walk in Her Shoes. I am Lady Lisa, and I'm here with my sister cousin, Madam Buddaphlai. Say hello.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.
All right. We want to thank, as always, NERDSoul for allowing us to be on his platform. You can find his many videos on YouTube on ThatNERDSoul. You can also check out his merchandise on shop.thatnerdsoul.com. Has a variety of videos on comic books, movie reviews, pretty much anything that is Black geek culture. Check him out on YouTube, ThatNERDSoul. So today we are continuing a series called Be a Man About It. This is actually part 4. You can find parts 1 through 3. We will have links below. So if you wanted to catch up, you can check those out. And this one is asking the question, and this is actually finishing up the series, asking the question, why are Black men under attack by Black women? All right, so this is, this is going to be one. So what do we have in our shoebox today, Madam Butterfly?
We have a red and blue Phantasma men's clown boot because today we are talking about how Black women play out our Black men.
All right, Phantasma. Okay.
That's the actual brand, Phantasma.
It sounds like it would be very colorful and, I don't know,
Yes.
have a lot of shuckery.
It actually did. Someone asked me, they were like, the shoes that you list in the shoebox, are they really real? And I'm like, yes, I actually look online to find something like when I think about the title of the show, what shoe do I see in that? And so yes, all of the shoes are real. So Google it. The Phantasma men's clown boot.
Oh
It
my,
is red and blue.
I'm a little bit afraid to see this. All right. Okay, so, I think this is going to be one. I think a lot of our topics are controversial, not specific on purpose. It's just, things that we feel need to be discussed, whether they're touchy, controversial, or whatever.
Right.
I do want to say that the purpose of us really discussing the things that we discuss is because, and I feel like I can speak for us both, is that um, we see foolishness when it comes to a lot of things that we do as Black women, and we need to kind of call each other out on it in love, and also in the way that we treat Black men. And it looks, when you look in social media, it looks like you just have a plethora of women specifically attacking Black men, but no women seem to be coming to their aid or defense. And I actually had to check myself when, that was being done on Facebook. I think it was yesterday, and I saw it and I was shocked by it. And then I was getting ready to just, scroll on, and I was like, wait a minute. The reason that this continues to happen, and that this, man can scroll and see like, oh, everybody's attacking me, is because women that think otherwise don't comment. And I was like, so I need to say what it is that I want to say, so that, he doesn't feel like all of these women are attacking me. Maybe I should have never said anything or whatever. So I did that, and it's really interesting because it was crickets after that.
Yes.
I have not seen a soul that has commented to that.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Well, I think, it's one of those things where, in a lot of, more often than not, having a woman, um, challenge, and not necessarily in a like in an aggressive manner or anything, but challenge the belief system
Mhm.
of other Black women, um, it kind of disarms them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because if you already have a certain idea in your mind about Black men, it's easy to um, kind of beat them down with your words. You know, I think that Black women, we have allowed ourselves to be socialized to a certain extent with that type of thing. And if we're not aware, if we don't check ourselves on it, then it can really get out of control. You know what I mean? Um, I think it's one of those things that occurs just like racial biases from watching commercials and different things like that. It's not necessarily something that is intentional, but in some cases it is, you
Right.
know? And so, yeah, I actually saw the post that
Yeah.
you were talking about.
I'm the only person that not responded but reacted. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just it's so unfortunate that Black men don't have a space of any kind to be able to express a thought. And the thing of it is that the what was being communicated wasn't anything disrespectful, demeaning, anything like that. It was basically just stating facts. And women like to apply how they feel about the facts to what's being said as if that has anything to do with the facts at all.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of, put out there, kind of why we do this. Because some people may think, oh, it's just because it's controversial, and that's not it at all. This kind of just stemmed from the two of us just having really good conversations. When we've been talking about these kinds of things for a long time, and just casual conversation as we talk. And Nerd Soul was like, y'all need to have a show. And that's pretty much how this started. So we're talking about things that we usually talk about in the same way that we talk about it. Trust me, there's no, scripting this and saying, oh, I have to say this and I have to say it this way. You know, where this is just us talking and you happen to be listening.
Right.
All right. So let's jump on into this. And start off first of all with this question, because I want to start from the very, very beginning. Are Black men under attack by Black women? Um, and if so, how so? In what ways? And how is this attack carried out? What do you think?
That's a loaded question.
Yes.
That's a little, so I'll say a little bit, and and then you respond, so that I don't want to be talking for 20 minutes. um and so in thinking about that on the largest scale is, I think Black women have an overall issue with Black men's existence in any context outside of what they need them for.
Mm,
So anything that has to do with their own um, uh, thoughts, desires, needs, wants, any of that stuff that doesn't benefit Black women, I think that they find it troubling and problematic.
wow.
You know, and
Mhm.
I'll personalize. I won't say they. I'll personalize and say we, because the thing of it is that just because we're talking about these things, and we have grown in
Yeah,
life experience, does not mean that at some point in our lives have we not participated in
absolutely.
any of these particular things. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Yes. And
So
say for me, when we say have grown, I'm talking Jack and the Beanstalk grown. Okay? the same.
Whew. Yes, honey. I don't know why I just had a flashback. I think it was like 1998 when we went to the Joe and Chico the Barge concert.
Oh, we had a ball.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I'm so thankful for growth. Yes.
We had fun though. I remember waking up the next morning. I had stayed over at your house. I woke up. I said, "Chico!"
Yes, I remember that very well.
Well, you know you had a good time.
Whew,
Okay,
too funny.
we digress.
Oh, yeah.
Time to move back a little bit, but we are we okay.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
So back to
I'm
our intelligent and informed conversation.
Yeah, I mean, our path was our path, and we had to go through whatever we had to go through.
Yeah,
I think that, potentially, who knows, potentially we could have evolved differently if we had women who are our age now talking to us about different things, or just sharing a different perspective.
yeah,
Because I think when you're really young like that, um, the only thing that you have to go on is, what your experiences have been or what you deem to be normal. And so you don't even realize what things aren't quote unquote normal,
yeah,
um, until you start interacting with the world,
yeah,
and your point of reference kind of expands. It's no longer just your family and peers, people in the neighborhood who typically are in the same, the same economic status, and that type of thing. So when you start to branch out into the world and experience differences, in thought and belief systems and all of that, it opens you up to a whole nother
it's
world.
it's yeah, it's really true. But so you know, I agree with you on what you were saying about it. It seems like outside of what we need black men for, we have nothing for them or have no use for them. And I'm just going by kind of what I see and what I hear and what I read in terms of how black women respond to or address, black men. Um, Everything is and I hate definitives. I hate using definitives. Um, but often I'll say it's confrontational. It's from a place of disdain. There's just this attitude from Jump Street, like the post on Facebook I was talking about. I mean, it was a simple opinion, thought, or really the statement he made was in response to. I'll just go ahead and talk about it. I don't have to name names. The statement was responding to in general people trying to blame seemingly to blame Kanye for the breakup that's going on with he and Kim Kardashian. And he
Hmm.
made the comment that she has 3 failed marriages. Maybe she could be to blame, but y'all trying to put it on him. That was the
Hmm.
statement. And
Hmm.
it, you know, women blow up and turn it into, oh, well, you're saying that because she's a woman and, he's crazy and just kind of really on 1,000 about it. I'm like, well, how did this turn into a gender issue?
Right.
Like, you just done flipped this thing all upside down any way you wanted to be mad. And it really, I didn't understand, how you are going to say, well, you're saying that because she's a woman. Are you in his mind? Like, what? He said that because it's true, because she
Right.
does indeed, well, this will be her third failed marriage. I mean, I don't know, so, you know, just that, and then other, things that I see in YouTube videos and whatnot. It's just really, you know, it's what we always go back to, and what it does
Right.
always go back to. It's a place of brokenness,
Yeah.
and we as women need to sit back and take care of our brokenness, because what
Mhm.
we're doing is we are not acknowledging it, we are not healing from it. And what
Mhm.
happens is it spreads, like a virus, because it takes, over, and you become this kind of bitter, um, you know, woman that will just kind of jump off on a man because you're still dealing with, or not dealing with, your
Right.
brokenness. And that's what it seems like when. And a lot of times it's kind of painful to sit and listen to, different conversations that Black women will have about Black men. And it's,
Yeah.
I hate that, you have Black women constantly saying they're garbage, you know they ain't poop, I'll say. I
Mhm.
can't, it makes me cringe when I hear it. And it's contradictory too, because it's like, you want to say men are garbage, but you constantly looking for a man.
Right. Right.
So you want garbage?
Right.
Because you can't have it both ways.
Right.
You know? So again, brokenness. That's how you know it's brokenness, because that doesn't make sense when you think about it. You do want a man, and you don't honestly believe that all men are garbage. Garbage. Maybe some of the men that you interacted with, maybe some of the things they do or have done are garbage, you
Mhm.
know, but you have to really work through that.
Well, let me let me say something to add on to what you just now said.
Mm,
Um, I truly believe that we magnetize into our life the energy that we put into the universe.
mm,
And so if you're continuously attracting a certain type of person that you can qualify as garbage, then you need to think about the condition of your spirit
mhm.
and what it is that you're putting out there. I know Black women, I know that we're perfect. We're completely untainted, you know. It was as if the baby Jesus himself just walked up out of the manger and put you in it. I get it. Okay. But let's just say, let's just play the devil's advocate in this situation, because you always want to weigh both options. So let's just let's just say that it is true that you magnetize things to you that are like you. So when you do an honest assessment of yourself, what what could a quote unquote garbage person find appealing about you,
Mm,
right? Because if they're just if they're just trash, they have no redeemable qualities whatsoever.
yeah,
What exactly, why would they be interested in you? That doesn't make any sense.
right.
So we really need to take an honest assessment of ourselves, and I'm not trying to point fingers. Like I've said, we've done that work for us to get to this place in our journey.
Right.
Doesn't mean that our work is over. It's not over until you're in the ground,
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned. Those steps had to happen in order for us to be in the relationships and the marriages that we're in right now. And so whether you're married or not, because you can get married and still be sick and toxic and all of that good stuff. The whole point is, if you can relegate an entire uh gender, or whether it's gender, race, religion, whatever the case may be, if you can just basically say that these people are not, they have no redeemable qualities whatsoever, then perhaps the people that you have interacted with in said groups were only a product of the energy that you put into the universe.
absolutely. Absolutely. It comes back to um, personal responsibility. You know, I like to always say nobody is more responsible for you than you.
Hmm.
And if you are constantly having a problem with everyone else, who is the common denominator?
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
So yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so let's talk about some different ways uh, that men are attacked, or I could say some different reasons, right? That we tend to attack Black men. I think it's in terms of course, romantic relationships. You know how men behave or treat us in romantic relationships, in terms of finances, um, and I would and career status, and also in terms of fatherhood. Those seem to be the main areas of attack, if you will, when it comes to how we speak about Black men and how we treat Black men. So when it comes to, let's start with romantic relationships. What do you think the general issue? Well, let's touch on it some. But what do you think the general issue is, or the reason why Black women want to attack Black men in terms of romantic relationships?
Okay. Well, stepping outside of the overall brokenness, you
Hmm.
know, outside of that, I would say with relationships, our framework for relationships is the European framework. And there are a lot of things that we experience that is absent in the European framework. And so if we are assessing our man based upon the quote unquote failures of that European framework, he's starting at a disadvantage in most situations because, generally speaking, Black men don't come from generational wealth. They don't have um, access to higher education. They're dealing with issues within the justice system. All of these things kind of fragment our community. Different people experience these things at different levels. But overall, generally speaking, there are a lot of challenges that Black people, Black men in particular, have to face. And so it's not a fair assessment to deem a Black man as successful, worthy, unworthy, a scrub, whatever word you want to put there. It's not fair to assess them based upon the European model.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
I agree. You know, and that applies across the board. You know what I mean? And we could generalize that across the board. In all of these comparisons and issues we have to be very, very careful that we stop doing that in using the method of measurement as what white society would use, right? Because you're right, it's not fair. It would have to be on a level playing field in order for that to be done. um and so, yeah, I agree, even in terms of romantic relationships. But I think it's also because I think, especially right now, in general, this generation that we're dealing with um is heavily a generation of women who did not grow up with their fathers, right?
Mhm.
They may not have necessarily had a strong male role model, in their lives growing up. And so they're missing that strong model of what a man should be, or the model they had wasn't what it should be, right?
Mhm.
Because everyone says your father is your first love.
Mhm.
So if your father is missing, who or what is your first love?
Right.
Or you could say you don't really experience a quote first love until much later in life.
Mhm.
And so I think when it's a case of, him being missing, you just have all of these different ideas from a million different places of what a man is supposed to be and do. And of course, a strong part of that is probably media,
Right.
music, celebrities, TV shows, which we don't even need to discuss why that's a problem.
Right.
That's scripted. It's all it's all scripted. Um, and then if you have a father who just wasn't really a good role model, that's an issue too, because whether positive or negative, we tend to attract ourselves, not always, but as women, we tend to be attracted to men who remind us of our fathers. It may not be a conscious thing at all. It could be
Right.
subconscious, but that's kind of what happens. And so I think it's really a case of we're just very misguided, misinformed, have distorted ideas of what a man is supposed to be and what a black man
Mhm.
is supposed to be and what he is and how he's supposed to treat us in romantic relationships.
Mhm.
Um, Another issue with that, which I think will cover really all of this, is that for a lot of reasons we've discussed before, we feel like now in 2021 at this time that we're in charge. You
Mhm.
know, even the media is saying, black women are in charge. Black women are responsible. We're responsible for putting the president in office,
Right.
right? So we're in charge. We have all of this power, and so that means that we're supposed to be able to control all of these things. And like
Mhm.
that's not how this works. And so I think subconsciously for a lot of us, we've gotten to a place where we can have this unrealistic, unreasonable judgment of what black men are supposed to be doing. And speaking of that, the powers that be are doing a really good job of minimizing black men while lifting us up.
Right.
And
Right.
that is not what we need as black people.
At all. At
Uh,
all.
Not to say that we need black men to be lifted up instead of us. No, black people need to be
Right.
lifted.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think that's where we are with romantic relationships. In terms of finances, it kind of falls under, to me, the same thing of where we have been put in a position as black women where we have been kind of lifted. And we talked before about how black women have had more access to higher education,
Right.
and uh, it is unlevel in terms of black men who have higher paying jobs versus black women who have higher paying jobs. We kind of have exceeded them, and so again, we've been talked into, if you will, believing that we're in charge.
Right.
We're doing better financially, so we should be in charge. And I don't know what his issue is and why he can't just step up and be like me, make money like me. And so then we start to look down on him, and
Mhm.
um,
Which it's so ironic because that what you just now said, as far as why can't he make money like me, is the same thing that we were being told in a different way. Like, just pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
absolutely,
You know what I mean? And it's like, how condescending is that? You're going to completely disregard everything that I have to go through to get the tiniest morsel that you have. And then you're going to blame me because my progression is slower than yours. Completely nullify anything that I've had to endure to just exist.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so then beyond that, now you can, sit high and look low
yeah,
because your hurdles were different than mine. And so you've been able to be put in this position. And I would just, I would ask people to really think about, you know, if you can recognize that there are some serious systemic issues going on, in particular in this country. I mean, we know that it's all over the world, but speaking on the issues in this country, if we know that this whole foundation is based upon white supremacy, and all of a sudden in the last, I don't know, 15, 20, 15 years or so, there's been this push to put Black women in a certain position of authority. Don't you think that that potentially could be a ploy? Like, you know, even through the civil rights movement, that did not happen simply because the people felt convicted in their spirit and decided to let Black people come into the restaurant. It had nothing to do with that. It was about the financial power and independence that we were gaining through segregation. And so they decided to neutralize our buying power. And because we were so willing and we wanted so badly to be allowed a seat at their table,
Mhm.
we gave away our power. Basically, the power that we had accumulated up to that point, we gave it away, and in essence, ended up destroying our families as a result of it. But either way, because I kind of went off the path there, the bottom line is you have to ask yourself whenever you see certain groups of people, certain segments of society being uplifted by the mainstream or the powers that be, you always have to ask yourself why, because this system is very calculated. There are no mistakes. And so there has to be a reason why this is happening. And I think that, the things that we just talked about earlier, just in terms of the thinking, um, explains exactly why. We may have gotten a higher education in terms of um, a structured learning environment, but we have really lost touch in a lot of ways and become ignorant when it comes to partnerships with our men.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree. Um, there is one page that I think yeah, a page on Facebook called, I think it's called the Marriage Club, I think, on Facebook, that I just really appreciate, because it is like a page where they have, and it looks like it's mostly Black. It's not exclusively Black, but it looks like it's mostly Black, where you just have couples that just kind of appreciate each other. They just send out different ideas and thoughts, and sharing things about their marriage, asking for advice, and I just think it's a wonderful thing to exist right now, because we don't see that a lot on social media. Um, and so I just really agree with what you're saying. I think we have to be very careful, like you said, um, about thinking about, well, where is this idea coming from? Instead of just kind of jumping on board and jumping in, or letting yourself get caught up, you need to kind of like step back and say, well, where is this really coming from? Um, because we shouldn't be in a position where we see our men as a constant problem. Like, how did we get here?
Right.
How did we get here, and having those thoughts and ideas? And if you feel like it's legitimate, then sit back and ask yourself, well, why is he not this and not that? What's going on for all of them
Right.
to be this way?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
for sure. Well, one thing that I can appreciate about Kevin Samuels, which I know you feel how you feel, is that one point that he always drives home is that you know other races, other nationalities can pursue higher education, can have jobs, can be business owners, they can do all of these things and still continue to marry, still continue to have families, all of this, but for whatever reason in the Black community, as higher education and corporate jobs and entrepreneurship in Black women increases, marriage rates decrease,
yeah.
and that speaks volumes, I think, to um, our inability. And when I say our, I mean Black people as a whole, our inability to properly handle success, attention, um, anything that gives us a platform. And of course, that's a general statement. But I think that as a community, we are so deprived of any type of messaging that makes us feel worthy.
Mm.
and valued. And so that makes us hold on even tighter to that degree as a way to kind of like make us legitimate in society, to hold on to that career, that salary, or whatever, because now I've arrived. Now I'm not just that little black girl, but I'm on the same level as my European counterparts. So now you can't look at me like I'm nothing. You can't talk about me like I'm nothing. So if that means that I have to, crap on my black man so that I can be this much higher, you know what I mean? Then that's what it's going to be, and it's no different than the way that Europeans or white people in the South, when you look at how things kind of broke out historically, the poor white people and the poor black people really were living the same type of life. And even now, you know what I mean? Because whether you want to call it the hood or the trailer park or the foothills of West Virginia or wherever, poverty is poverty. And the same issues are going to affect people in poverty across the board, regardless of race. I think where race comes into it is when the messaging is, even if you're poor, you're a little bit better than black folks because at least you're not poor and black. So now, as a poor white person, I can look at a black person and feel like I'm at a higher level than you
Right.
because I don't have to, my stature, my standing in society is better. And that's how the racism and the in recent years the Trumpism and all of that's how all of that continues to get spurned on, is this desire for the lesser thans, or the have nots, so to speak, to feel, they want to feel validated, they
Right.
want to be legitimized in this society. So whoever can be that, whoever can get out of that have not category,
Right.
whether it's through race or money or education or whatever, everybody's trying to climb out of it.
Right.
It's just, it's insane.
It is. It's insane, but it's funny how we can all fall into it at some point because we are Americans and
Right.
because we're talking about an American system, right?
Mhm.
We can all fall into it, but then when we sit and we actually talk about it, it's like, this is crazy. You see how it actually is systematic. And I was just thinking as you were talking, some people say that until Martin Luther King was speaking of joining together poor blacks and poor whites. Until then, we could deal with him. But as soon as that started to happen, he had to go. Not long after, he was planning that coming together of poor blacks and poor whites, he was
Mhm.
killed.
Right.
Because once you do that, and those two groups start to really realize we have a whole lot more in common than we
Mhm.
have in differences, that's power.
Right.
That's power. And people have to
Mhm.
understand, yes, there's a racial divide, but there is um, a class divide and a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Economic.
Yeah, an economic divide, even that's just as important, if not more so, I'd say.
Right.
It all meshes, ebbs and flows together.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then of course, coming back, it applies to us again because we are Americans and we have to deal with and we get engrossed in these same issues and standards
Mhm.
on top of our blackness,
Right.
but we have to be really careful and we have to take control of the narrative.
Right.
We have to take the narrative back and we have to decide what our opinion is going to be of our black men, how we're going to treat our black men, what standards we're going to hold them to.
Right.
Because as of right now, it's really unrealistic and it's hard to watch. It's honestly
Mhm.
just really hard to watch. So yeah. But let's go on to the last, I would say, subtopic, if you will, which is fatherhood, which I think is another major one. So in terms of fatherhood, um, how do you see Black women attacking Black men in terms of their fatherhood?
Well, I think first and foremost, there's no value, and of course, this is generally speaking. I don't think that there's value, an understanding of the value that fatherhood, uh, or the presence of the father in the child's life, how beneficial that is to the child. And I think that that goes back to the first section of the topic in terms of the relationship. You know, that the initial relationship between that black man and that black woman. If she does not have respect for him as a man, if she does not value and honor and appreciate his essence as a man, but yet she would still allow herself to procreate with said man, right? So the respect level hasn't really changed. The relationship has changed,
Mhm.
right? So now I don't have a reason to put my respect level in check because the relationship is now changed. So now I can use this child as a weapon to hurt you. And it's not just you I'm hurting, I'm hurting what you represent, which is however many black men in my history that have disappointed me, that have fallen short of what I expected them to be. You know, it's I'm going to make you pay. You're going to be the person that I exercise that torture on because all I know is that I am in pain and I have to figure out how to lash out at you.
Mhm.
So if that means that I'm keeping the child away from you so that you can't have access to him or her, or if that means that anything that you try to do to teach or um, to pour into the child, I'm going to invalidate or diminish what it is that you're trying to teach. I'm going to, impress upon the child that whatever you have to say really doesn't matter, right? So now it's carrying over into another generation, the dismissal of the importance and power of a black man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a methodical diminishing of the importance of his existence as a father. And it's so ironic how that works because when you think about it in the context of a woman who didn't have their father in their life, let's just say that. So if you haven't had your father in your life, before you numbed out to that, there was a point where you were hurt by that. There was a point where you were longing for that, right? So just like you hurt and you longed for that, what makes you think that your child wouldn't? And just because you got to a point where you numbed out from what your experience was, first of all, being numb from your authentic feelings is not healthy, and it's going to lead to a whole lot of other destruction. But you're willing to impress the same heartache and hardship on your child that was impressed upon you. And it doesn't even come to the mind of a lot of women that perhaps the reason they didn't have their father in their lives was because maybe their mother was a toxic individual who was doing the same thing to their father that they're now doing to their child's father because on some subconscious level they learned this and they're just repeating the same cycle,
Right.
you know?
That's real. And that's something really to think about. I know nobody wants to hear that and say, don't be talking about my mama. It's not that anybody's talking about your mama. We're talking about taking a serious and raw look at what is going on and trying to decipher why. Where did this come from? What is the root of this? What is the cause of this? Because until you can really pinpoint that, it's going to continue to exist.
Mhm.
Now, it's no different than an illness. You can
Mhm.
keep taking as many different pills as you want to, but if you don't pinpoint the cause and figure out what the medication, the exact medication should be, what the treatment should be,
Mhm.
it's for nothing. And this
Right.
is this is the same thing. This is exactly the same thing. And the other thing I wanted to say is that another part of this with fatherhood is that you have women who will choose to procreate with these men and have not properly vetted them,
Mhm.
have not gotten to know them, or will ignore all the red flags that have beat them all up inside and through the head. You know, all of these different things that you should have been paying attention to. And then you lay down and you create life with him.
Mhm.
And right after you create life with him, he ain't worth nothing. He
Mhm.
can't keep a job. He don't never come home. He don't never spend time with his son or daughter. He don't never do. Well, it's funny how he bibbity boppity boo turned
Mhm.
into all these ain'ts. But just a few months ago, he was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Right.
The problem is, he didn't change.
Mhm.
He didn't change at all. It's that once you created life with him, and it's no longer about y'all making goo goo eyes at each other, and it's about this child, you realize all that he ain't.
Mhm.
But he was ain't before. You know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
so that's the part where some women have to take responsibility. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, and that's not taking onus off of him and his action at
Right.
all. But to be blunt, you can't lay down with a dog and then get upset about him behaving like a dog.
Right. Right.
Doesn't make sense. And I'm not calling all men dogs. I'm using an analogy. And so that goes back to what I said. We're no one's more responsible for us than us. You are no one's more responsible for you than you. You know, we can only go but so far blaming someone else. What it comes down to it is you're responsible for you. You know, if we're so powerful and so magical, which I don't like to say, but if we're all those things, then that means we need to take control of ourselves and our lives in terms of who we're choosing to be with. And it feels like y'all ain't making choices. Y'all just kind of like tumbling and falling into it and like, oh, here I am.
Right.
You
And
know,
then you have the luxury of making it somebody else's fault and you become the victim.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these men, they're not ready to be fathers. Now, the onus goes on them too, because can't nobody make them a father except them.
Right.
You're both participating. But we're talking about from a woman's point of view in her choosing. But he wasn't ready to be a father at all. He may be dealing with, he doesn't know what a good father looks like. He may be dealing with, you know, issues that a lot of black men have in terms of getting a job. He may have been incarcerated, all these different things. But no one is making informed, careful decisions.
Mhm.
And so we're choosing these men, and I use the term choosing loosely, um, to procreate with, and they're just not ready to be fathers. Now, in a few years, if you were to take your time, get to know this man, or you know, allow him to have some growth, get older, or whatever it may be, he may be a good father in the future. But it
When
just
you're married. Hello. I'm
Hello.
sorry. I have to say that. I'm sorry. And this is not, you know my story. Like, I'm not walking around here like Pollyanna trying to say, oh, you should do this, that, and the third and all of that. That's not my point of reference. What I would like to say, especially to these women out here who do not have children, please, if at all possible, which it is possible because you're in control of your own body, is, well, in most situations, um, do not procreate outside of marriage. Doesn't mean that marriage necessarily secures all outcomes and that type of thing. But things get a lot more complicated when you're dealing with, you know, baby mamas, baby fathers, siblings in different homes, trying to make sure that they maintain relationships. All of these things get convoluted, and so if you can avoid that and be able to give your child the most stable and healthy outcome possible, do that. You know what I mean? Like, why would you want to put yourself in a position to not do that? And one of the ways to guarantee to the best of your ability that somebody is committed to being with you is by being married to them. So then it doesn't become, well, I thought he was this. Well, I thought that he wouldn't do that. But you know what? The what lets you know that a man is committed to you wholeheartedly is when he marries you. And if you're questioning his motives in marriage, then there's something else going on that you viewed in his character, which should already nullify him as a potential for marriage anyway, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
have children in the context of marriage, not long relationship, not situationship, not, oh, I'm gonna get him from his girlfriend, so let me go ahead and do this so I can, have him come over here. Not, oh, I think he'll like me or want to be with me if I have his baby. Not, oh, in a moment of passion, he said he wanted me to be his baby mama. None of that.
Yeah.
Like, let's use some wisdom here. Like, seriously, we are the ones that determine whether we give birth or not. We have that choice. We can have the baby, we can give it up for adoption, we can have an abortion. We have that right here in this country,
Yeah.
right? So if we're the ones that can push the button on life or death in that context, then we should be more responsible as gatekeepers because we understand that the buck stops with us. It becomes our burden to carry, and then we hope that they'll be committed
Yeah.
because we had the baby before the commitment.
Yeah.
But
Ugh.
I'm gonna step down off of the soapbox.
No, but you're right, because then we battle for the commitment afterward.
Right,
And that's when the anger and the bitterness kick in,
right.
because it's a constant battle of he ain't coming home, he ain't coming to get him when he said he was coming to get him, he's staying out. See, those are issues you should have been dealing with before the
Hmm.
child. These are issues you deal with when you're dating,
Right.
you know. But yeah, you're right. That's a whole other issue. So, and I don't know, the fatherhood one is one I think that just kind of maybe bothers me most. Because also you have to look at, a lot of times as black women, we're becoming mothers before we're ready, but
Hmm.
then we expect him to have it all together.
Hmm.
We may not have planned to get pregnant, or we may just be in a place where we planned it, but we weren't really thinking it out. We're just not all together, but we want him to have it all together. We want him to have all the answers. Want, him to just magically, you know, grow up simply because, 9 months ago you got pregnant. That's not the way it works. That's not how it works. And so, we get into attack mode. And again, it's all a part of the system where we become conditioned to do so. And,
Hmm.
and really, if you think about it, it goes along with what you're saying about marriage. It's because you're doing things out of order,
Hmm.
right? And that, you live and you learn. You really, sometimes, we learn the very hard way. But you
Mhm.
live and you learn. When you do things out of order, it doesn't turn out right. You could apply that to when you're cooking. You could apply that to when you're building a house.
Mhm.
You can't put the roof on before you got the walls up.
Right.
How that gonna work?
Sure.
And it applies when you're talking about building a family. There are
Mhm.
certain steps. There's a method to it. Some people may disagree, but I don't care what nobody says. No matter how much the world changes and goes on, old school works.
It does. It definitely does. And I want to, for the sake of transparency, because these people don't know our life. Um, I did things out of order. Well, I've done things out of order and in the proper order. But I can speak on how how much harder it was doing things out of order than doing things in the proper order. There's so much confusion and chaos and disruption to the lives of children and all of that. And it's like, why even put yourself in the position to have to deal with those things? Now, I mean, once children are here, they're here. You know what I mean? And so then the responsibility shifts, because now that they're here, now you have to find ways to co-parent and bring siblings together and all of that, regardless of how the adults feel about each other. Because at that point, like, you already had your opportunity to deal with the feelings of the adults involved without having children, and you forfeited that.
Right.
So once you forfeit that, and children exist, it now becomes about what's best for the children and how they feel.
For
It's no
sure.
longer about how you feel. And if you gotta bite your daggone tongue off in order to maintain peace and tranquility for these babies,
Right.
that's what they deserve.
Right.
Because anything less than that is abuse.
Yeah.
Period.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I think the bottom line of this is really we as Black women have to take stock of ourselves, right? And be honest with ourselves about where we are in terms of our brokenness, in terms of our immaturity, in terms of our mistakes and misjudgments before we jump on Black men and hold them to the standard that we cannot hold ourselves to.
That's real.
People
That's
are jumping on B. Simone about that video she made, and I'm sorry. Where was the lie? I don't know if you saw the video, but B. Simone, when you get a chance to look it up, she got on the video and pretty much talked about how women are looking for all these standards in men that they can't hold themselves to. That was pretty much the gist of it, and she caught it. But I was like, what is? There's no lie there, you
But if
know?
you're not willing to own your stuff, then you're not going to be willing to hear that.
Yeah,
Because it has to be somebody else. As long as it's somebody else, then I don't have to change any of the nonsense that I got going on inside of me.
yeah. And just to be transparent, just like you were saying, I didn't have a child before marriage, but I made a whole bunch of dumb, stupid mistakes. And I always said the Lord watches over babies and fools. It's been a long time since I've been a baby. You know,
Yeah.
so I made some dumb mistakes, and made some dumb judgments when it came to dealing with different men. And I endured pain that I didn't need to endure if I had taken the time to step back and not make these decisions to deal with me and my own issues, right? And that's what it comes down to. Deal with you, make yourself whole
Mhm.
before you try to intertwine with someone else and create life with somebody else.
Right.
It's not you come together and make each other whole. No, no. If you got a
Mhm.
broken person coming together with a broken person, you got a bunch of broken pieces.
That's it.
That's that's not how that works. That's not at all how that works. So, all right, we're gonna jump off of that because I think we could be here forever. Um, so, let's take a break and let's
Mhm.
go to our segment in your Black business. We just want to remind all of you, and for those that are new listeners, we have the segment in your Black business where we want to highlight Black owned, Black operated businesses, small or large, starting up, or you've been doing it for years. We just want to highlight your Black business. So what we're inviting you to do is to contact us and give us your information, give us a small rundown of what your business is, contact information, any highlights you might want to give. And Madam Butterfly, how can they contact us?
Oh, I knew you would put me on the spot like that.
Well,
Um, what is the email?
we don't never email ourselves, so how would we know?
Can we say we'll put it in the link? We'll have it in the link.
We'll have it in the link, but I'm gonna go ahead and I think I found it. I'm gonna go ahead and give it to you. It is myperspective@gmail.com. It is spelled myperspective at gmail.com. So it's my perspective with an H in it. I'll spell it again. myperspective@gmail.com. You can email us, let us know what your business is, give us whatever information you'd like to include. We just want to support Black owned and Black operated businesses. And we will contact you, of course, and let you know um, in what show that we will be highlighting your business. All right. And also we have a segment called New Day's Resolution that is ongoing, where it's just, a twist on New Year's resolution. We just encourage you to take your goals day by day versus making huge goals that may be a little daunting. So you can kind of just regroup each day and kind of start again or evaluate where you are. So do you have any goals that you've been kind of working on day by day, Madam Butterfly?
Well, you know that it has kind of evolved since we started this segment. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been doing the chakra clearings, which I'm still doing. And I was starting to learn about this. Well, it's not a new thing, but it's kind of new to me. I've read about it here and there, but um, so the calcification of the pineal gland. Okay, this is my new thing. So basically, um, the concept is that through like through time, your pineal gland becomes calcified. And so, through this same kind of system of listening to binaural beats that clears chakras, your pineal gland can become decalcified. And so, as that process is happening, you become more spiritually in tune with the universe.
Mhm.
So, I had tried it before, but I tried it the other day, and I'm telling you, this was some weird stuff, man.
Really?
This was some weird, like weird in a good way, um, because I felt so open and exposed in a way that I can't even communicate to you. It
Mhm.
was it was it was very interesting. And the only thing that I could compare it to is one time I fasted for 4 days. I only had water. Um, Sun up, sundown, it didn't matter. Like day in, day out, no food, just water for 4 days. And by like the third day, when people would speak to me, I could see the words in the air like the Matrix, like I could see the letters coming down in front of my face. And I was like, man, I must be going bananas. Like, yeah, I'm hungry. I need to eat, you know. But it, I can't really explain it. It's just something that you experience. But I felt so present in the world, like physically present. I could feel the air, and I'm not talking about like a breeze, but I could feel the air. I could feel my skin. I could feel just, it was just present.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue doing this and see what happens so that I can let you guys know.
Okay.
But there's all kinds of information on it. Check it out if you're interested. But it's the calcification of the pineal gland.
Wow. All right. I don't have anything nearly as deep as that.
Oh, it's very deep. You are educating our future.
Yes, I'm trying. So yes, I'm continuing on this journey of getting this doggone uh curriculum together, y'all. So for anybody new, I am planning to homeschool my child. He is 3 years old right now, so I'm able to kind of take my time. Um, so I'm planning a curriculum. So what I'm doing, probably a little extra, but I didn't find a curriculum that's put together that I wanted to use. I know there are probably hundreds of them out there. I didn't find one that I wanted. Um, so I've taken bits and pieces of different things that I found, um, and kind of putting it together and making my own. And so, of course, that is taking a lot of time, a lot of energy and effort and regrouping and all that kind of stuff, but it is coming along. And I am happy about it. But yes, it has taken my spirit to another place. So I will say that. But I'm making that progress and trying my best to stay focused. All right, so let's go to our last segment, which is footnotes. And somehow, unfortunately, footnotes is kind of inadvertently turned into, a place where we acknowledge those that we have lost, um, in the entertainment industry. Um, so who do we have this week, Madam Butterfly?
Yes. So unfortunately, we have Prince Marky D. He was one of the hip hop pioneers of the group The Fat Boys. Um, we lost him this past week, as well as some of you may know. His name is his given name is Ewart Beckford, but he was also known as U Roy. He was a legendary Jamaican DJ, and he revolutionized reggae music in the 70s. So prayers to their families, and we pray that they transition well.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let's wrap up this last episode of this series, and let's talk about these last two things. We've talked about how we as Black women are in the midst of this attack on Black men, but one thing I wonder is, why is this attack not reciprocated? Why we don't see this mass um ideology coming from Black men about a general feeling or statement of belief or animosity, I'd say, toward women that they are pouring all over social media. Why do you think we don't see that reciprocation?
Because men are not emotionally driven in the same way that women are. Women are led by their emotions. And so everything is about how they feel about a thing. It's not about the thing, it's about how they feel about a thing. Whereas for a man, generally speaking, it's more about the nature of the thing, you know? So they can acknowledge that, a woman is doing this, that, or the third, or whatever, and they may even say that it annoys them. Um, However, generally speaking, I don't think that it it shapes a belief system to the point that they're willing to be combative with women. Of course, that's generally speaking, and there are some factors involved in terms of the raising of that man, and if he has been raised around dominant feminine energy and that type of thing, and he doesn't have that balance of the masculine energy and how to operate in that space. Um, but I think that that's why it's just you know men are more logically based and charged. Doesn't mean that women aren't logical. It just means that we're different and we tend to be emotional and vocal about our feelings.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I do feel though that, you know, there may be, I think, a good part of Black men who have made a generalization about us based on, experience and pretty much the state of relationship chaos, if you will, that we're in with this present generation. But I think, like like my husband will express all the time when he says he sees some of the stuff that women post on social media, he'll say, you know what, I'm not getting into it, because it's like, he's like, I don't have time. I don't have time. He's like, because they have time. It's like, as soon as he makes a statement, it's like, you know, he's jumped on,
Right.
and it just goes everywhere. And I've seen exactly what he's talking about. I mean, it can get bad. And I think in general, men are, rather like, look, I'll just keep it to myself. I'll just talk about it with my boys, but I'm not putting it out there for them to jump all over me. And 5 months later, that's the man who said such and such in 2018. You know, you know. So I think that's a big part of it too. It's like they really don't want that battle, but not. And I don't mean to overgeneralize women or Black women, but I think it, again, coming from a place of brokenness and anger and all those things, you turn to you, you tend to kind of hold on, and when you hold on, it's like you come back 20 minutes later after a conversation and another thing, and it's like, I thought we were done. I thought we were done. We moved on. Hold on.
Yeah, that's funny.
I've done that myself. I'm laughing.
Because you didn't have the thought at the time that the pop off occurred. So now you gotta, since you don't have that Doctor Strange different outcomes in time, you got to go you gotta go in the other room and get that off your chest.
We had it. We would use it. What we use it?
Huh?
We had it. What we use it? The different.
Uh maybe sometimes.
I don't know.
Maybe sometimes. I don't know because it's scary because if you have a different outcome then that changes up a whole lot of stuff. So I don't know.
Mm.
I don't think I would use it to I wouldn't use it for evil. I'd use it for good. Yeah, I wouldn't use it to say something extra. But
Yeah.
maybe I would use it when I have already said too much.
We ain't got all day.
God ain't through with me yet, okay?
Yeah. I would use the kitchen to like fix whatever it was I just did with this chicken. But before it dried out to go be with the Lord.
Ooh, that's funny.
Anyway, that's a tangent, y'all. So, very last question. How do we?
I'm sorry, I just got tickled because I'm like, maybe they're gonna start emailing some chicken recipes.
It's not the recipe that's the problem. It's the cook. Like, yeah.
Whew.
Um. So, how do we, as Black women, turn this state of attack into conversation instead?
I think really um, self control.
Mm.
You know, I think that we have been given a pass to be as wrapped up and consumed in our own feelings as we want. And whoever gets run over as a result, it's justifiable. And in the same way that we want to be honored and respected and appreciated and not talked to in a certain way, we have to be willing to give that same thing out.
Yeah.
And so, what one of the things that I have tried to do more, to kind of harness my mouthiness, not to say that I wouldn't say that my mouthiness has ever really um, gone too far off of the deep end in my marriage, because I had gotten hold of it for, well, I was able to harness it a little bit
Oh,
before that. Okay, let me go ahead and put the little asterisk next to that. But I will say that when I am upset, I'll ask myself, okay, what you're about to say, does that help the team or does that hinder the team? You know, and most of the time I'm able to keep my mouth shut if it's something that's not going to benefit. Because sometimes when you in your feelings, you just want to blast off and say whatever it is that you want to say. But my husband and I, we are in a partnership. You know what I mean? We're trying to make it to the Super Bowl, and we use that analogy all the time in terms of being together through our old age, and beyond, even when we transition from this life, into the next life, we hope to find each other, and so are our movements, are the words that we're using, how we're treating each other, how we're edifying each other, do those things all make the likelihood of making it to the Super Bowl higher, or does it diminish, and if it's going to diminish it, more often than not, I'd like to say
yeah.
that I keep my mouth shut. But every once in a while, it's a flag on the play, is all I'm saying.
I got you. But the key is not to be perfect in your execution at all times, because that's not possible. The
Right.
key is to acknowledge it in the first place,
Hmm.
right? And to add to that, I think the only way we can get from this point of attack to actually sit down and have a conversation and be in a position to listen is we have to first, again, start with ourselves.
Hmm.
We have to be honest about where we are, whatever hurt and brokenness that we're dealing with, and actually deal with that,
Hmm.
and come from a place of mercy and grace.
Hmm.
you know we
Hmm.
really have to, and this doesn't have to necessarily be a Christian or even a spiritual thing.
Right.
Mercy and grace can be applied in any form, right?
Right.
And I think
Hmm.
people have to get back to a place where it's like, just show mercy and grace to another human being, let
Right.
alone your fellow black man.
Right.
Because all of us either are in a place or have been in a place where we are struggling, we're still growing, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
So I think that's how we get there, is first reflecting back on ourselves and approaching it from a place of grace and mercy.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. So that wraps up again this last episode of this series. Just be a man about it. Again, we will have the links to the first 3 episodes below, so you can check those out. And we will be starting something brand new for you next time. And we appreciate, as always, all of you who like, comment, subscribe, and share. We really enjoy your comments. Um, and we don't expect you to always agree, and we invite the conversation. So again, thank you to NERDSoul for allowing us to be on this platform. You can find us, and you can find all of his many videos on YouTube on ThatNERDSoul. Again, you can check out his merchandise on shop.thatnerdsoul.com. calm. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And bye, y'all.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.